This week on Dance of Joy, we talk about staircases in Russia, handwriting in Europe, and wasting cereal in Chicago. All that and more as we watch Season 4, Episode 1 of our favorite 80s hit sitcom, Perfect Strangers. Hello and welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Sophia. I'm one of your hosts, and joining me as always is my co-host and my brother. What's up, Imran?
What's up, sister? What's up, listener? You caught me in the middle of something, Sophia.
Uh-oh.
I was I got a scratch-off card from the gas station. I was in the middle of scratching off. It's one of the slot machine ones. I scratched off the first two boxes as Apple, and it's Apple, all right? I'm just going to, let me scratch off the Batman symbol. Boo.
Oh, no.
I don't win anything. These things are a ripoff.
Well, do the fourth one. Maybe two apples and two Batmans are worth
there's
something.
only 3 slots.
Oh, no.
And I lost. What's a Batman symbol doing there?
Wah,
Anyways,
wah.
I'm excited to be here. Excited to be back with the cousins and our listeners and you.
Yes, we are both excited to be back. Before we get into this, we should make a small little announcement to our very devoted Perfect Strangers fans of Perfect Strangers, fans of our show. Perfect Strangers is back online for free, y'all.
Out of the city.
Oh my God, it's free. Wow, it's a new year and there's a new streaming service. As you know, if you've been following the show, it got booted off of Hulu. The contract was up. Some of the TGIF shows have shown up on HBO Max, but not this one. Where did this one show up?
This one is now on IMDb TV.
Nice.
So IMDb, of course, is the Internet Movie Database. They have a streaming service that you can access through Amazon. You don't need to have Amazon Prime. There are commercials, ads in the streaming, but they're not that many at all. You just have to have an Amazon account, even a free one. So, in fact, this is almost a better deal than when it was on Hulu.
Oh, my God. This is a much better
one
deal.
small commercial break in the episode. That's it.
Right in the middle. All you need is an Amazon account, which I believe the whole world has at this point. You don't even need Prime. And there's a lot of free movies and TV on IMDb TV owned by Amazon. This is way better than Hulu. I was so excited when it popped up somewhere. And I was worried for a second. I was like, is this thing going to show up anywhere?
It is a 2022 New Year miracle.
That's right. And with that, let's get into it. We are at the beginning of Season 4.
Yes, and speaking of scratch-off cards, we are talking about Season 4, Episode 1, titled The Lottery.
Oh, that's not the short story where you get stoned to death by people?
That would have been a good guess, perhaps a bit dark for a sitcom in the 80s,
Yeah.
but that is a deep cut reference, though.
Who wrote that
I'm
story?
interested
We'll have
to
to look it up
see
later.
if who all remembers. Let us know if you had read The Lottery when you were in junior high and very disturbed by it.
Also, a dark story to read as a kid, which they made us do for some reason. It was very weird. Yeah,
that's true. All right, tangent over. If you were to open the TV guide back in 1988 in the fall and read the description for this episode, it would have said, in the 4th season opener, Larry gives his cousin a lesson in economic reality after Balky is tempted to play the lottery. But the tables turn after the winning numbers are announced.
Oh, boy. That sounds like Larry.
It sounds like Perfect Strangers.
Of course, the cast being the hilarious Bronson Pinchot playing Balky Bartakamos, Mark Lynn Baker as Larry Appleton, Melanie Wilson playing Jennifer Lyons, and Rebecca Arthur as Marianne.
And we have some guest cast appearances. We do have Belita Marino as Lydia, Joe Marie Payton Francis Harriet, and Mr. Gorpley's in there, Sam Anderson. And there is another guest character that we will discuss as we go through this.
This episode originally aired October 14th, 1988. That's where we are. The finale to Season 3 now was in late March 1988, and TV season usually starts like early September, late August. This was a late mid-October debut because why?
Because as you may remember, if you were around in the 80s
I kind of remember this.
I don't. I was definitely not paying attention to Hollywood business. But there was a writer's strike that year that lasted from March to August of 1988, and a lot of TV shows were delayed in production that year.
Yeah, it's the WGA, Writers Guild of America. It would lasted 153 days, still the longest WGA strike.
And do you know what the issues were?
I believe I was actually looking it up on Wikipedia. Residuals from hour-long TV shows, cost-cutting measures, a couple of other things. And we've had recent strikes also.
Yeah, I was going to say Hollywood hasn't changed much in the last 40 years.
That is because of a new thing called streaming. Is nobody had figured out streaming and how that affects the crew and the writers, and so the recent strikes have all been revolved around streaming rights and streaming hours. And actually, production in Hollywood recently almost shut down entirely. Like all the gaffers and cameramen were it was like 60,000 members of this IATSE union across the country were going to stop but they settled on a deal, which not a lot of them liked, but they reached a deal just as they did in 1988.
Okay. Thank goodness. We need our stories.
Yes, everything will be delayed or badly written by just people that got on the street. Here, can you write us a show?
Or cost-cutting measures,
yes.
And then guns will fire for real.
Just clip shows for every episode. Yeah.
Yes, and flashbacks.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into this lottery episode. Act 1 opens, and let's talk. We open in the Chicago Chronicle. We get our intro to the characters. And before we get into it, let's talk about some things that might have changed between the seasons. I think the
opening's the same, right?
Right. The opening sequence is the same as far as I could tell as well.
Yeah,
so I'm glad we agree on that.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything different.
Balky has a bit of a haircut. It's young. It's short. It's fresh.
He's looking very skinny too.
He's looking skinny. Yeah. I feel like, and we know we've touched on this briefly. It's not something to dwell on, but Bronson Pinchot has talked about having weight issues and eating issues, stuff like that. So, it's not unreasonable to presume that in the off time he focused on that and got skinny.
And then when we get to the apartment, it's largely the same, but some of the color schemes and maybe the paint and the trim
like a fresh coat of paint or something.
Different.
And there's the spot where Balky hid as a ninja.
Yes, in that alcove. Yes, now there's bookshelves.
They must have acquired a lot of books and needed to put some more shelves in there.
And I feel like the wood trim is lighter than it was before, and And
there's some bookshelves, which will be.
And there's bookshelves, which we'll find out why.
Okay, let's get back to the beginning of this episode. We're in the basement of the Chicago Chronicle. Balky's working away, and it looks like he's about to grab his jacket and head out. And Mr. Gorpley comes out to give him his signature Gorpley hard time against the immigrant, Bartogamus. And Balky says he's like, "Where do you think you're going?" Balky's like, "I'm going home." And he gives him a hard time. He's like, "You can't fool me." And he had asked him apparently to compile a new office directory, thinking that this would be this huge big project that he could ding him on when it wasn't ready on time.
Of course, it's something he's already done. Yeah.
And he's like smirking. He's like, "I guess you'll be working late tonight." And Balky's like, "No, I finished it." And he picked up a huge thing, this huge binder thing. And he has gone above and beyond, of course. He says each employee is alphabetizing. He's turning these pages under Gorpley's nose.
It's hitting him it hits him in the nose.
It's very funny. Each employee is alphabetized, indexed, cross-referenced according to blood type. He's like, if anyone needs blood type O, you can look here. And he's so proud of himself. And then Gorpley accepts defeat. He's like, "Keep smiling, Bartogamus. Your days here are numbered." And Balky, of course, does this thing where he takes the insult as a compliment. He says, "I'm so flattered you would take the time to count them," which is cute, a cute, funny opening joke. And he says, "It makes me feel kind of special." And Gorpley's like, "Blah," and walks off. But here's my note about this opening scene. Balky has been working there for a while.
It's been a year now, I think.
Gorpley's grumpy. Yeah. He has foiled his plans over and over again. You'd think Gorpley would get it by now that Balky is competent and gets things done, and he's not going to be able to fire him for anything. Some of the premises are getting stale for me, but
I love the running gag of Balky never gets the insult and always turns it around.
That part is fun. Gorpley. Yeah, so I guess they need that tool for him to keep giving him insults.
And it's a good opening gag. And then the elevator door dings, and Lydia literally runs in with the plot of the episode.
Yes, Lydia's very excited. She's with news for Balky. I don't know why, but maybe just Balky was the one who's there. So, like, why would Lydia just be like, Balky, I got to tell you? But anyway.
How about some
she
of
has
this
big
80s
news.
fashion here, though? We have Balky's wearing his Trapper
Balky's
Keeper
in his
jacket.
Trapper Keeper
Yeah.
jacket.
Yeah.
Yes, I still need Rainey's input on Trapper Keeper as a name for that
You
jacket.
got to add that to the spreadsheet. And then Lydia's in like a red pattern thing, and Harriet's in a solid blue with shoulder pads.
Yeah, blown out hair, shoulder pads.
Lots of
all that
80s
stuff.
colors.
So why is Lydia so excited? She tells Balky she's won the lottery, and Balky gets very excited. And then he goes, "What's the lottery?"
Oh, I love it. She goes, "I won," and he goes, "Blow my mind, why don't you?" And then he goes, "What's the lottery?" Why he does the old.
What are we talking about?
Exactly. And then Lydia kind of like doesn't know how to explain, so Harriet steps forward to explain what the lottery is, and she gives the like actual technical explanation,
Which is important because this is her perspective of the lottery.
Right. It's a game run by the state to raise money for the schools. You pick 6 numbers, and if it's the right 6, you could win $28 million. And then Balky gets super excited and says to Lydia, "You won $28 million?" And Lydia says, actually, it was 100, which seemed like a lot of money 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, leave it to Harriet to burst her bubble.
Okay, let's pause here for a minute, too. Again, Balky's been in America for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And we know from the Carl Lewis episode that he frequents these little, like, bodega-type shops.
Yeah.
I think he would know what the lottery is.
You'd think he would have seen a commercial or an ad.
I think he would know.
I believe there was an episode in season 2, the Babes in Babylon, where Larry has a gambling problem. The Balky points out that Larry doesn't even play the lottery. Why would you go, get all crazy over this gambling?
So here's where I start to think, like, this season forward, when I was rewatching all of them,
You're running out of
all
things,
the way through,
or just retconning things.
Well, there are some recurring. We'll talk about those when they happen, recurring premises, but not that. But my thought was they're really flexible with Balky's character, depending on what they need for the story. Like, there are moments where he's still very naive and childlike, and doesn't know a lot of things about American culture, despite having been there for 2.5 years already. And then there are other moments where he's totally in sync with everything, and he's super on point, and he knows everything that's going on, and he's profound. So that's just my note. Like, it goes back and forth, and the more we go through the seasons, the naive points become less and less believable.
Yeah, I mean, if the story dictates him not knowing what the lottery is to make it funny, then he's just not going to know what the lottery is.
But I'll blanket all that with this reminder of the thing we always say is that this was the 80s.
Yes.
People were not binge watching. They did not remember what happened in season 2. They had no way to go back and watch season 2 unless you were in Hollywood.
Right. You had videotapes and you were recording it, but the show is like getting popular and it's a new season. So this may be a lot of people's first time watching the show. So enter Larry Appleton, who he looks about the same shape and weight and hasn't really changed much. And Balky asks him if Larry knows anything about the lottery. And here we get Larry's take on the lottery, and he says...
Smug Larry.
The smug Larry goes, "Oh, sure, I know about the lottery, Balky. It's a scam run by the state to take advantage of people who didn't show up when they were passing out braids." And he laughs, and he looks right at Lydia, who just played the lottery, going, "Right, Lydia?" And she just goes, "Drop dead, Larry."
Dead Larry.
Just great. Just the wrong time and the wrong thing to say. And then, Harriet complains that now she has to listen to Lydia complain and whine all the way to the 5th floor in the elevator after that statement.
They leave. Balky tells him that Lydia had just won $100 in the lottery. Larry feels bad for like a second, but not really. But before we can even explore that, Balky says, "Cousin, I want to play the lottery."
No, you can't play the lottery, Balky.
I want to play the lottery. And I thought this was going to go into, I want to play the lottery. I want, and then the crying, I want to play lottery.
Right.
But that doesn't happen here. instead, we have Larry just explaining more things to Balky, and he says the chances of winning the lottery are astronomical. And here's a great Balkyism. The response is, well, if it's good enough for our space program, it's good enough for me.
That's a good line.
It's an excellent line. Excellent line.
That's pretty funny. And then I love this where he goes, Balky, you have a better chance of getting hit by a car. Oh, and then Balky goes, well, sure I do, but nobody wants to buy a ticket for that.
Yeah.
Which is a good point. And he chases him to the garage as Larry goes, no. And Balky's like, yes.
So Balky's determined, runs out of there determined
He's going to play the lottery.
We cut to the apartment. It's later that evening, and Balky and Larry enter with groceries, and, they've been out and about. And Balky walks in singing one of our favorite songs from one of our favorite musicals.
Absolutely.
Which I believe you and I could do a whole separate podcast just on this musical. But he enters singing "If I Were a Rich Man" from our favorite Fiddler on the Roof.
And we got our first song of season 4.
And dance. And he does the Tevye dance exactly with the shoulders shaking, the arms up, and then he adds in his Balky hips. Yes, he does the instrumentals with his hips.
Do you hear the women in the crowd squealing every time he does the hip gyration? It's very obvious.
People were in love.
And they're like, just like he's Elvis or something. They're just fainting. Did you ever do the play Fiddler on the Roof? Were you ever in it?
No, I was in our next favorite musical, which was Jesus Christ Superstar. Listen, listeners, we were two Muslim kids, children of Pakistani immigrants in Northwest Chicago, nestled among an Orthodox Jewish community, and our two favorite musicals for these two brown Muslim kids were Fiddler on the Roof and Jesus Christ Superstar.
That's so funny you mention it because it gets better. Well, I actually was in Fiddler on the Roof in high school.
I remember.
I think it was sophomore, junior year. And I played Nahum the beggar. I had a few lines and I was in the chorus. And then it hit me because you know what else was going on during this time? The first Gulf War, I believe, was happening. And I was like, oh, of course, they picked a Muslim kid to play the beggar in the Jewish musical during the Gulf War.
That was a little bit later. That was, after this episode, but when your play was happening. Yeah, that's
when the play was happening was
early 90s,
Yeah. So I just thought that was ironical.
No, I don't think they did on purpose. They were probably just trying to get you apart.
I would get typecast as a preacher and everything for the rest of I don't know why.
You know what I remember? Okay, small side story while we're on the topic of Fiddler. What I remember of your performance is so I was a few years younger than you, right? So we were not in the same set of school at the same time. We were not in high school at the same time. But when you were in that show in high school, I remember we had this like big clunky camcorder.
Oh, yes.
Like old school.
So you got to put a whole VHS tape in there and put it over your shoulder. And it's heavy.
And we had a tripod, I believe, too. And I remember you taking me up to the balcony and setting me up. And prior to this at home, we had gone through the script. And by then I knew the script very well because I knew the show very well because we would watch it all the time, even before you were in it.
Yeah, with Tevye.
We watched it. And I think we probably like talked about it a lot, or you were like explaining things to me as we watched it. But you had like blocked out the taping, like you had directed how to film this.
You had to know the cues to know what to shoot. I was like, I'm gonna come over here
on the high school stage, and you were like, on this scene, zoom in here, on this scene, zoom in there. And I just remember this very vividly, and it was like very advanced for kids,
God.
you know. And I was like, okay, we should find that tape and see if I did a good job with it.
Yeah, that's somewhere in the archives at the mom's house. So I barely remember doing that, but
I remember we were like up in the balcony, and I felt like cool because I was up in the balcony with just like the lighting and sound people.
Also, this is back when long movies like that on VHS were like two tapes.
Yeah, I remember with an intermission and an overture.
Yeah, and we said watch the whole thing. The first half, arguably, way better than the second half, I think. Whatever. But yeah, it was long.
I still watch it like almost every Thanksgiving. For some reason, it ended up as a Thanksgiving thing for me.
It's so good. Anyways, Balky is singing and dancing to If I Were a Rich Man. It's fantastic.
Brilliant.
And we find out, Larry can't believe he still bought the ticket. We find out Larry actually lent Balky the $1 to buy the ticket. And Larry wants the dollar back. Right? So Balky goes over and he gets his treasure caribou that we've seen.
Remember the treasure caribou?
That's where he kept his stock, his one stock that he bought.
Letter, yeah.
And he pulls out $1 and he's about to give it to him. He's like, but he wants to offer Larry the opportunity to buy half of his lottery ticket. And Larry's not having it. He reaches for the dollar, and Balky's just kind of playing the dollar on him, just reaching it out of his grasp. He goes, cousin, you took me in, you gave me shelter, you feed me. I want to share this with you. And Larry's just like, just give me my $1. We'll call it even. Balky goes, look, cousin, I am a simple sheep herder. My needs are few. I don't really need $28 million. I think I could slide by with $14 million.
So generous.
He's offering him $14 million. And Larry's like, I don't want you have your ticket. I don't want any of your ticket. I just want my money back because he hates the lottery and he snatches the dollar.
I mean, what's important to note in this scene that we need to know for the later scenes is that just Larry is still staunchly anti-lottery. He wants nothing to do with it.
Yeah, he thinks it's a scam, of course. And he explains to Balky, he gives him a little lesson in economic reality, he says. And this is actually really funny. He goes, this is a nice crisp dollar bill. And he reads off the thing. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. He goes, that means I can buy things with it.
Boy.
I can give this to someone and they give me things I want. This, on the other hand, and he grabs the ticket out of the hands, is a totally worthless piece of paper. You cannot buy anything with this. Nothing. Zip. Zero. Zilch. He's like, no one with common sense would trade this, the dollar, for this, the lottery ticket. And then Balky grabs the ticket back. He goes, unless this were worth 28 million of those. And he gets up and continues to sing If I Were a Rich Man.
Boom, ba-da-doom, bum.
And the women
I love
in
that
the
he does
audience
the
go wild.
instrumentals.
Yes.
But this is funny because this is such like old school economics. I wonder what Larry would say now about NFTs or crypto or
right.
Like this money that's not real money.
We could talk about that in PS Today. I think it would transfer to that. So anyways, the next scene we transition and it is now time for the lottery drawing, and Marianne and Jennifer are all there sitting on the couch.
They're all in a line on the couch.
The TV, and there's popcorn. This is a big event.
So like back in the day, this is how people watched the lottery drawings. It was like this air bubble with all these numbers, right? Do they still do that?
They do still do that, but the numbers now are like, they pop up online. You don't really need to watch it. But yeah, if you had one on the big jackpots, if you had the tickets, you were definitely crowding around.
Tune in at a certain time on at the end of the news or something. It was like those air suction.
Right, the balls come tumbling out, and then and then the girl has to turn them so the number is facing forward because they're not always going to land the right way.
So they're waiting for these numbers to get called, and Marianne's all excited, and she's like, "Oh, if I won, I'd buy the airline. Then I could make up the schedule so I don't have to work double shifts."
We have some great Marianne lines here.
And then like Jennifer's like, "What? You would buy the airline just to change your schedule?" And then here's her brilliance. Marianne goes, "And then I decrease my holdings but maintain a controlling interest, initiate a 3-for-1 stock split, and roll my money into high-yield junk bonds."
Yes. A Marianne moment of clarity.
Yes, but typically when there's a Marianne moment of clarity, they all stare at her for a beat, and then she gives us like a one-line explainer why.
Right.
She's like, "I watch Oprah," or whatever. But here we're missing that. But actually, and we did some Googling around the internets and read a thing that said that there was a line in the script. It just didn't make the edit, I guess, where her line was, "My uncle got busted for insider trading," which is so funny. Like, I wish that was there because we're kind of waiting for it because that's the pattern for these Marianne moments.
So we know Marianne comes from a family where her father was a carpenter and her uncle is kind of shady.
Busted for insider. And she watched
jail. And sometimes at night she makes sense.
Yeah. So, but in the edit, they just kind of like look at her and then turn away,
and then
just
turn
like
back
shake
and keep
their head.
going. Yeah. And then Jennifer just goes to Larry. "Larry, what would you do with $28 million?" And Larry, he's being so smug and he's like, "Well, Jennifer, I'm a newspaper man. My beat is reality." Ugh.
Ugh.
He's so smug and condescending. And Belky goes, "Oh, this is the part where he takes the fun out of everything."
See, Balky is like hip and like
Yep.
2.5 years. He knows what's happening in the relationship dynamics, but he still he'd never heard of the lottery before. I don't know. So then Marianne asked Balky what he would do if he won, and then Larry's like, "You're holding the winning ticket." He's still giving Balky a hard time. And Balky says first he would take out a big chunk and pay off the Meposian national debt.
Which is how much?
And Jennifer gasped. She's like, the entire national debt? How much is that? $635.
It's only $635. Low GDP also, I think, for Mepos. Wow. They're running a tight ship over there.
And then he said after that he would love to do something to help poor people in Chicago. And
Aw.
he says, I'd love to give homes to the homeless, jobs to the jobless, shifts to the shiftless. I think that was just like a wordplay thing.
You got the rule of threes,
Shifts
but
to the
it's really
shiftless.
nice that he's thinking about the poor people in Chicago.
About the shiftless.
He's
yeah.
and Jennifer goes, "Belky, that's so sweet." And then they're doing the drawing, and Marianne reaches the remote so she can turn it up. But Jennifer asks Balky where his ticket is. Balky has hidden the ticket away, but he pulls a piece of paper from his pocket. He wrote all the numbers right on the piece of paper. Kind of a smart move, I guess. He's been a little paranoid.
Yeah.
The announcer says, "Get your tickets ready," and Balky's just shaking. He's like, "I can't stand the suspense." He hands the paper over to Larry. He goes, "Can you check the numbers for me?" And the suspense is killing him. He can't take it. And Larry just condescendingly, he's like, "Oh, golly gee, Balky, you're going to trust me with the winning numbers?"
And Balky's had it. He's like, stop, just check the numbers.
And then we hear the numbers, and something hilarious happens with Marklin Baker's face.
Yeah, so they're doing one number at a time, and after every number, a subsequent number, we see the other three. We see actually Jennifer and Marianne sort of
15.
lose hope and be like, "Well, we didn't get it."
32.
Yeah, 52. But off in the corner, Larry's just quietly looking at this piece of paper, and his eyes open wider and wider. You know that frantic, buggy-eyed Larry we know,
Real buggy-eyed.
real buggy-eyed as each number 21, 24, 34, and then he's like at the end he's like totally quiet, big eyes, he's staring at the paper.
Oh, the face is amazing. You see so much white of Marklin Baker's eyes that it looks like it hurts, like they're gonna pop out of his head. I don't know how he does that. It's so funny, especially the transition from just non-believing to very quickly just shaking, and you can see his lips. He's repeating the numbers.
Yeah,
it's like, and the girls get up and they're like, "Well, that's it for me.
That's it.
It's over.
Balky, we all lost." And then finally they turn around and they see I thought this was a little unrealistic too, like that it took them so long to notice that
Larry's freaking out.
They turn around, they're at the door about to leave, and they see Larry just frozen and buggy-eyed, and they're like, "Are you all right?" And he said, "Balky, you won $28 million." And then they all start celebrating. They're all in this big hug together, and Larry gets up to throw himself over the couch. He's standing on the couch. He tries to join the hug, but they all
they totally leave him hanging, and he falls over. They're behind the couch, and he's trying to get up and join the hug from the other side of the couch,
and he
just Fosberg flops over.
But anyway, it ends in this little celebration. Larry falls, and end Act 1.
Apparently, Balky hit the numbers.
Get out of the city!
Wow. Before we get to Act 2, listener, if you want to join the conversation, get your thoughts read on the show. If you love the show and you've picked out things and noticed things, there's a place where you can share it and meet other Perfect Strangers fans. It is our Facebook group. Join it. There's a link in the show notes. It's called Dance of Joy Podcast Facebook group, where all of our listeners hang out. We will be sharing some of their thoughts on this episode. That's always fun because those guys, they're so good. They catch things we miss, and it's fascinating to see what people see and what theories come up with for the show.
Yeah, and it's great to be part of this little community, and we're all going through this together.
And you can only do this now, 33 years later, after the show has aired.
The time was just right.
It was. The timing was right.
Timing is everything. Okay, so let's move into Act 2, which takes us to the end. It seems like there's only 2 big acts in this show.
Yeah.
And we are back in the apartment. Jennifer and Marianne are leaving. And before they leave, Marianne goes, Balky, $28 million hasn't changed you at all. It just happened. And he's like, well, I'm just a simple sheep herder. And then he closes the door behind them. They leave. And then he turns to Larry and says, who's rich beyond my wildest dreams?
I'm rich. And they do a dance of joy. We get a dance of joy. This episode has everything.
Yes. But they don't say, now we're so happy we do the dance of joy.
They just go right to the dance of joy.
Straight to the dance of joy.
Because, this is a huge thing. There's no time to announce it. Just do it. And then we get a great bit with a great physical bit where they're hugging and dancing. And Balky is saying one thing, and Larry is sort of repeating the things and changing is it the pronoun there?
Yes.
So Balky
Should we just act this out?
Yes, let's do this. They're jumping up and down. I'll be Larry.
Okay. They're jumping up and down. I can't believe I won the giant jackpot.
We're rich, Balky. We're rich.
Mama will be so proud.
We did it. We did it.
Cousin, tell me I'm not dreaming. Tell me I really won.
You're not dreaming. We won, all right. And he grabs Balky and pulls him to his face each time. He goes, ee! And they're pressing faces together. And then suddenly Balky stops.
Hears it.
And then he goes, tell me again. And then Larry goes, we won.
And Balky comes out with our favorite question. How could we win if I bought the lottery ticket? Because Balky's like, wait, this guy. That's
a good point. He did not. He gave him his money back. And Larry's like, well, don't get me wrong.
He tries to backtrack.
No one questions that you bought the ticket. He goes, but I was the one who loaned you the money. I gave you the capital. I made the initial outlay for our risky venture. And Balky reminds him, yes, and in gratitude, I offered you the opportunity to buy half the ticket, which I correctly claimed was the winning ticket. But then he goes, you refused, and then you made fun of me, and you accused me of throwing my money down a rat hole. And Larry just goes, I've changed my mind since then.
So Larry's now scrambling because he wants to be rich, obviously, because we've always known this about Larry. He wants to be rich. And he's trying to backtrack on his smugness and his Larry-splaining and his opinions. And Balky's wise to this, and he's giving him a hard time.
It's kind of funny. Yeah. See, here's an instance where he's playing with him.
Yeah.
And he's a little more suave than...
Right. He's more suave. He's not so innocent.
Yeah.
So Larry even offers to go buy 20 more lottery tickets and split the winnings 50-50. And Balky's like, now you like the lottery? And Larry's I do.
Yeah.
And then Balky reminds him that Larry told him that if he was to look up the word sucker in a dictionary, his picture would be there.
Oh, that old line. He told him, oh boy.
And then Larry just is out of excuses and he turns to begging. He's just like, Balky, please, please, I want to be rich. We have pathetic Larry, which is another Larry that we know and love. I want to be rich, please. And Balky finally gives in and says, cousin, I'm just playing a game of cat and louse with you. Cat and louse.
Cat and louse. That's a great mix up of the phrase.
And he says, of course I'll share with you. And Larry gets very excited and he goes, in your face, Donald Trump.
And a Donald Trump 80s reference.
And a Donald Trump 80s reference.
Which means meant something different then than it does now, which is also very, very interesting.
He was just a rich guy then.
And now we get lots of great physical buddy comedy as Larry tries to find out where Balky hid the lottery ticket.
And Balky says, I hide it. He says, where? And then Balky just has a blank face. And it turns out he does not remember.
Well, you hit it so many times. You know when you do that thing where you move something so many times you hide it, you can't remember where it was.
And so he says he hit it again and again. He forgot where the last spot was. And then Larry is panicked again, frantic Larry again. And he grabs him by the shirt like he does. And he says, you have got to remember.
But then he tries to come. He goes, all right.
All right.
No problem. Take your time. No hurry. He goes, where did you put the ticket? And this is so cute because Balky goes, I put the ticket. And then Larry goes, you put the ticket. And I love Brad Spitzer goes, I put the ticket. He really emphasizes the accent. In my. Larry's like, you put the ticket in your. And Balky finally says, winter coat. He goes, winter coat, there. And then they frantically run over
to the closet.
Run over the closet.
And then Larry pulls out all of these different, one by one, different coats and jackets, and they're all coats and jackets that we've seen him actually wearing.
They've worn on the show.
But it's so cute because
the rhythm of it is great.
Yeah, he pulls one out and passes it like assembly line style to Balky, who's behind him, and Balky's like spring, and then he's like spring, and he tosses it aside. Next one, summer, tosses it aside. Autumn, tosses it aside. Then the vacuum cleaner comes out, and they just like toss it to the side.
It goes spring, summer, autumn, vacuum cleaner.
And then after the vacuum cleaner, it's winter.
And then I love Mark Lid-Baker searching to the pockets, and this whole scene, you could hear him. You could hear his little grunts where he's just like, "It's not in there." So funny.
The ticket's not there, and Balky's like, "Oh."
And then Balky goes, "Oh, I was thinking I would either put it in the winter coat or in a cereal box." And then they scurry over to the kitchen. Larry grabs one hand, 4 boxes, all the cereal that they have, brings it to the table. They proceed to dump out all the cereal on the table and rummage through it, just making a huge mess. They're just insane. And
Which is something they do quite often on this show. There's a lot of dumping of cereal on tables in this show.
Yeah, they like to play with their cereal. They like to blow into the cereal. They like to... but they also like to make a mess on the show, which is fun when they make a mess. And then suddenly Balky, while rummaging, goes, I found it. He goes, what's that, the ticket? He goes, no, it's the Captain Power decoder ring. I'll have a complete set. And then Larry just grabs it, throws it out the window, goes, no, you don't. And then he grabs him by the shirt. He's screaming at him. Where is it? Think! He's screaming right in his face. And Bucky's like, I can't think. I was up all night. I couldn't sleep. And then again, Larry tries to calm him. I goes, all right. Just try to remember. You had the ticket in your hand. And then he kind of grabs him and takes him around where he thought he was. Like, as I was in the living room, he throws him in the seat. He goes, I was watching TV. He throws him in the chair. And he goes, no, I was over there. He picks him up, throws him on the sofa. And then he goes, oh, I was looking at the fireplace. And he brings him over to the fireplace. And then he goes, I began to gaze into the fire. I was thinking about home. And then I don't remember. And then Larry again, grabbing him violently, screaming, you don't remember where you hit a lottery ticket worth $28 million. And then Balky just goes, books. Larry's like, what about them? He says, I hid them. It's behind the books. Now we know why there's a bookshelf there because they both run over
to the bookshelf and they start madly just like dumping all the books off the shelves onto the ground.
All the books on the ground.
As they're pulling all these books and making a book mess, Balky goes, wait a minute. Now that I think about it, it's not behind the books. It's in one of the books. And Larry's like, which one? It makes a difference. You know, Larry's getting really annoyed. And Balky goes, Shakespeare. He goes, Shakespeare. And then he pulls out like 3 different books and he's like, comedies or tragedies?
Balky goes,
sonnets. And he grabs one, tosses the other 2 off, and he like shakes it upside down, and nothing falls out. And he's like, it's not there. And Balky's like, really? And he takes the book and he opens it and starts flipping through it
from the beginning, one page at a time. And he's like, he throws it. And again now, Larry is so exasperated. He grabs his shirt.
Frantic Larry.
He has got him close by the throat, yells him again, think. And Balky's like, I can't think. There's no air to my brain. Because now his shirt is open and you can see Bronson Pinchot's chest hair.
Yes, which I feel like a lot of the ladies in the audience appreciated that.
I think they do that on purpose. They know it gets the women crazy. Balky's like, I must have hidden it underneath the corner of the carpet. And Larry goes, impossible. I would have found it when I vacuumed. And suddenly, light bulb goes off. They look at each other.
Vacuum cleaner.
They run over. They grab the vacuum cleaner from the floor.
This is so gross.
The bag. Take the bag out. They're both pulling at the bag until it bursts open and dust goes
so gross.
Flying everywhere.
Yeah, like a lot of
They are making an amazing
dust.
mess here. We are watching them make a mess. It's hilarious. And then there's this little bit where Bronson is going through Mark Lid-Baker's hair.
Yeah.
Like a chimp picking lice.
Yeah, I think that was also maybe a cut scene. We didn't see all of it. That's my hunch.
But you can tell like he's almost cracking up at this
Oh
point.
yeah, when the
which is
dust
so
first
funny.
explodes,
Yeah.
Bronson Pinchot is really trying not to break. He's laughing so hard when he's looking at Larry.
And Mark Lynn, but MLB is just straight face, great concentration. It's not in there, and we get a great Larry going, all right, don't panic, like real loud. He's like, it's got to be in here somewhere. You take the kitchen, I'll take the living room. And Bucky starts running towards the bedroom, and Larry's like, kitchen,
The kitchen. My
and
question on
spins
that is,
around.
do you think that was on accident and improvised?
That might have
Because
been improv too.
It seemed like
I mean, the energy in this scene, like they're building off
kitchen.
each other. It's so fantastic. I love this whole scene. It was so funny.
And the scene fades out after that. Before we move on, I want to talk about these cereal boxes that we see. So, of course, we have Raisin. There's about 3 or 4, right?
Yeah.
One is Raisin Poofs, which
Yes,
we know
we've
from
seen
the Raisin
before.
Poofs
Yeah.
episode. The others were Kernels, like Colonel Kernerls.
That is hilarious and clever
Colonel
title. I
Kernels.
can't believe nobody's actually made a food product that's called Colonel Kernels.
Sugar Oatsies.
We've seen
And-
that before.
Yes. And Oat Boats.
Oat boats.
I think Colonel Kernels might have been on the show before too, but I don't remember where. But Oat Boats
Easter egg. Yeah.
was prominent on Full House.
Yeah. Another
which was
Miller.
another TJIF, another Miller Boyette production.
Look at this continuity, the shared universe, the serials that are crossing over.
Yeah,
The shows. It's great.
it was in. I guess there was like some episode where Oat Boats was prominent.
I'm glad the Raisin Poofs is there.
Raisin Poofs.
Does he still own stock?
Does
I
it-
always wonder.
I wanted to zoom in and see if it still said 100 raisins in every box. But
Yes, that company is they're not good. Now we transition. Time has gone by. It's the next morning as we get a little cut of the outside of the building and then back in. And you see them sitting on the floor next to a wrecked apartment.
yeah, all
Oh my
the
God.
furniture is turned upside down. There's dust everywhere. All the bookshelves are even down. Everything's in disarray. It looks like a hurricane went through there.
It's like the table is upside down and there's popcorn in the underneath the like on top of the upside down table. Like there's the dust everywhere.
Gross.
These guys did a number. There's a knock on the door. It is Marianne and Jennifer, and Marianne has a killer line here. She walks in looking at the mess. She goes, "Wow, you guys got eccentric fast." It's so funny. And Jennifer's like, "Larry, what happened? Where were you robbed?" And Belky just goes, "I lost the lottery ticket," and they both lower their heads and start to sob.
And then Marianne with another
Another great line.
Well, easy come, easy go.
And she says that and like looks away. Just like the wrong thing to say at the time. She's trying to help.
Anyway, the girls are just saying goodbye before their flight for the day. And as they walk out, Marianne pulls an envelope out of her purse and says, "Oh, Balky, here's that envelope you asked me to hold on for you," and leaves it on one of the upturned pieces of furniture.
The whole audience, you can hear them gasp when she does this.
like-
They're like, ah!
Because it doesn't even occur to Marianne when they said they
Right,
lost the ticket.
that
She's
was
like,
what he
oh, by
gave-
the way.
And then there's a great beat where they just put their heads back down. And then they look up and look at each other and they run over. And they open the envelope. And sure enough, the ticket is in there. And he goes,
Yes.
Belky goes, "Cousin, we're multiple millionaires again."
And they're excited and they're hugging. They're not dancing for joy, but they're jumping around and hugging. And we cut to the next scene. We see a very tall building exterior. And it's the lottery office. So
Yes, it
they're
is.
presumably up there high on one of these floors. And we cut to the interior and they run into this office. They run up to the counter. It looks a little bit like a bank teller counter.
It's definitely a reused set. I think we've seen parts of these
It's
things
the
before.
DMV.
It's the DMV
it looks
set.
like
That's
the
what I
DMV
thought.
set.
Yes,
yeah, that's what it
it
is.
looked familiar.
It's the DMV set.
And they run up to the counter, and there's some more great physical comedy as Balky's in front and Larry is behind him, and he's pushing him into the counter, leaning forward with his hands around Balky. Larry has, and he's got the ticket, and he's flicking the ticket and making motions as Balky goes, "We have the ticket. Check the numbers. You'll find we are the newest millionaires." And then Larry makes him kiss the ticket, which is so funny.
And then Larry pushes Balky aside and takes his spot in the front. And he's like, large bills will be fine. He's like so smug again. And the guy's like, okay. And then he says, the guy's like, mind if I check the numbers? We like to do that before we hand over $28 million. And Balky's like, of course.
They both say it simultaneously. They're like, oh, of course.
And then the clerk starts checking the numbers. And every number he calls out, Balky and Larry are like high-fiving each other and like, jumping around. And so he's like 15, 15, high five. 32, 32, high five. 52, 52, 21, 21, 24, 27. And Larry's like, wait, hold it.
Wait, there's one, but like, there's one. They don't
34, 37.
The funniest bit is there's high fives, but one time when he calls the number, Balky pulls on Larry's ears and Larry's tongue comes out like he's a little toy between, and then they go back to the high fives. I was like, what?
So
what was that? It was so funny. He pulls his ears and Larry's
so excited. Yeah.
They're just having fun. But yes, the numbers may not match up here. What's going on?
27, 34, 37. And Larry's like, those aren't the right numbers. And the guy was like, I agree.
I was just thinking the same
thought
thing.
just occurred. And Larry's like, no, there's something wrong. Balky has the numbers written right on this piece of paper. And he gets the piece of paper and he shows the paper to the clerk who reads the papers on the numbers. And when he gets to those numbers, he's like, is that a 4 or a 7? And Larry and Balky answer at the same time, but Larry says 4 and Balky says 7.
No. Oh, no. And Balky explains, I could see how you might think that was a 4. It's got a little line through the middle. And Balky goes, I also put that through my Z's so nobody thinks they're 2s. Now, this is like a British thing.
Yeah, I actually do this too.
I do this too.
I adopted a long time ago because it makes sense. Because I've lived internationally and I've seen it. And it just makes sense to distinguish the numbers. And
so if you've never seen this, it's the 7 with the little line halfway
tick.
through. And you do the tick so that the 7 isn't mistaken for a 1. And the same thing with the Z isn't mistaken as a 2.
But if you do like the triangle version of 4,
it kind of
closed,
looks. Yeah,
I think that's where the confusion comes. But I don't do the triangle version. I do the boxy
open
version.
4, so it's clear.
Exactly.
Oh my god! But I, for years, have done the same thing. And when I saw this, I was like, "Oh my god, that's hilarious!" I do this.
Too.
But this is essentially has caused confusion.
But here's my question on this too: 2.5 years they've lived together. You'd think Larry would know Balky's handwriting quirks by now.
He doesn't. He was. So I first thought Balky wrote the numbers down wrong when I, was first watching this.
No, he wrote it right.
He wrote it right. Larry, the idiot, messed up and read them wrong. Because I want our money. Give me our $28 million. And the guy's like, sir, this ticket has the wrong numbers. And Larry takes the ticket and throws it away. Who cares about this ticket? He pulls out the paper. He goes, look at this piece of paper. It's got to be worth at least $1 million. He's just lost it.
And Balky grabs him. He's like, cousin, remember, reality is your beat. And the beat goes on.
Turns out if you match 4 of the numbers like they did, you win $100. So the guy hands them $100 bill, and which Balky grabs, goes, thank you very much, and tries to get Larry away, crazy Larry away from the man. As Larry goes, I don't want $100, I want $20 million.
Oh boy, Larry's done it
Larry,
again.
Just why did you read the numbers wrong? But
and why didn't you confirm before you got all excited?
Also that, but
Balky, what's this number?
That amount of letdown is palpable. Like, oh my God, if you thought you had won $28 million and you were pretty 100% sure. But
also you should know your cousin's and best friend's handwriting after 2.5 years.
Why didn't he double check the numbers when they found the ticket? Is nobody noticed on the way over there?
They were too excited. That's the point. They were like in their heads about it. That's a good point too. Anyway, we cut to the sort of final scene. They're back at the apartment. And they walk in. The place is still a mess. And Larry's like super down on himself. He's like, that's the story of my life. What made me think I could win the lottery? And he plops down onto the dusty couch, like the bottom part, it's still overturned, so we can't see him. He's
we see the bottom of the sofa. Yeah. We don't see him. And then Balky goes, but cousin, we did win the lottery, as he just picks up the sofa and jumps on, and you see dust fly everywhere.
And Larry's like just in the perfect position.
He's just lying
somehow.
there as Balky hops on into the vacuum dust. He goes, we picked 4 numbers out of 6. We won $100. And Larry's like, big deal. What's $100? And Balky goes, what's $100? It's one pair of Air Jordan basketball shoes.
Those are 88 prices, 1988
This
prices.
is a great reference. In 1988, but Air Jordans came out in like 1985. They would have been on like the third model.
But you can't get a pair for under $100 these
Right?
days.
No, they're like 120 or more. And there's 20 versions. They're still making Air Jordans, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Then he goes, it's 20 trips to the top of the Sears Tower. So what is that, $5 a trip, right?
Yep.
Nowadays, you get maybe 4 trips out of that $100.
Probably $20.
It's like $25 to go. Although they do have that box where you could step out and you're literally standing in the air. It's very scary. I don't know if I'd try it.
I haven't been yet.
Larry isn't impressed still. And then Balky goes, it's a 4-year subscription to Sports Illustrated magazine, which if we order now includes the baseball preview and the Swim Suite issue. And Larry at this point looks disappointed, but he picks his head up for a moment. He's like, oh, maybe. No. And he lowers it again. That was also huge. I remember the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. Do they even make that anymore? It's not. Well, you don't even need the magazine. I don't even know if the magazine is printed.
I think it's pretty canceled. I don't know. Do they?
It
seems like something that would be canceled now.
Also, magazines, people don't. Everything's online. Yeah,
well, you do. You see them in the doctor's offices. And then Larry goes, so he's like, he talks about Sports Illustrated, if we order now, etc. And Larry just sits up. He's been lying down. He sits up. He says, Balky, how do you do it? And Balky's like, cousin, it's simple. You just take the little postcard out of the magazine and you fill it out. He's talking about subscribing to Sports Illustrated.
Oh my God, those magazines!
Which is maybe something we need to explain to how to.
So you had to, if you want it, right? If you did, well, that's a good point, dude. That's not.
Do people subscribe to magazines with the postcard anymore, or at all?
So those postcards were just everybody hated them because you would get a magazine and postcards would just fly out of there and litter the place. But I also used to subscribe to comic books and get those in the mail. I don't even think that's a thing. But getting media, printed media on a subscription basis in the mail.
Yeah.
That's kind of a weird concept now.
Without, on purpose, not because somebody has sold your information to
but you don't need to subscribe to things. Also, there's direct market comic book shops and magazine store. But there aren't even any bookstores left, really.
There's still some. But,
there's one Borders here or Barnes & Noble. I don't know.
Well, no, there's no. Yeah, Barnes & Noble, I think there are a couple locations, some locations left. But there are independent bookstores still.
I miss going to the Barnes & Noble and just surfing through the magazines.
Oh my God, I used to work at a Borders. Those are all gone.
Yeah.
Then we hear some music, which of course means it's lesson time. And this lesson is for Larry, and it's taught by Balky. And Larry, okay, so Balky's telling him how to subscribe to the magazine. Larry's like, no. How is it that you see the $100 we won and I see the $27,999,900 we lost? And Balky says, well, because you're comparing the $28 million you thought you had yesterday with the $100 that you do have today. And I'm comparing the $100 we do have today with the $100 we did not have yesterday.
Yeah, he's got a point.
And Larry's but
it kind of confuses Larry.
It's convoluted, but it is a point. And Larry gets it, and summarizes by saying, "You're right. I guess I see the glass half empty." And he's holding his hand out like he's holding an imaginary glass. And he says, "I see the glass half empty, and you always see the glass half full." And then Balky looks very concerned. And he says, "Cousin, I don't see a glass at all." And he just takes his hand and roll credits.
Oh, it's so good.
So good.
I don't see a glass at all. He's just. So
it's not really a lesson. It's just an observation of their two different life views, their two different perspectives.
Before we get to our thoughts on the episode, listener, check out our TeePublic shop. Go to danceofjoypod.com/shop. You could get a lovely Dance of Joy t-shirt in 80s colors. You get it in teal and hot pink or whatever color you want.
One.
Yeah, it's very 80s. It's a lot. The color of the shirt that Larry is wearing in this episode, it's exactly that color. But there's also other things with our logo, fun things like mugs and pillows and travel mugs that you can buy. If you get something, send us a photo, share it. We want to see it and celebrate it. Danceofjoypod.com shop. This is a pretty fun fourth season opener, sister. It's an episode that has everything. It's got Balky singing. It's got Dance of Joy.
Physical comedy.
It's got physical comedy. It's got Larry being
doesn't
crazy.
have everything. It doesn't have Dimitri the sheep.
Oh, there is no Dimitri sheep appearance.
And
That's
it doesn't have
true.
any Don't Be Ridiculous.
It does not have a Don't.
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
There it is.
We've had that ourselves.
But yeah, it is a fun opening to season 4. And as I said before, there are some things I start to notice now that we're in season 4 where, like, you know, the flexibility of Balky's character going from like totally naive and childlike to like knowing a thing or two and being on to Larry's antics and stuff like that. And like, why are certain things lost in their 2.5-year relationship? But again, that is all said with the benefit of binge watching this. And these observations probably would not have been very prominent when we were watching in real time in the 80s.
Yeah, you only notice this when you watch them one right after another. But it's a great setup episode for new people to come in and stuff. Let's find out what our listeners thought of this episode from our Facebook group.
Yeah, listeners had a lot to say. Cousin Pam says, makes a very good point. Did Balky have a pornographic memory for only one episode?
Oh, yeah.
That's a bit of a letdown. And she says also, Marianne is a human alien hybrid doing her best to fit in the world. I like that.
Both of those comments are great because, yes, Balky should have remembered where the ticket was.
But I think it has to do with like being under pressure, right? Because before, when we found out he had a pornographic memory, it wasn't like Larry wasn't like screaming in his face. He just sort of remembered things that he's looked at. But it's a fair point. Like, it's just 6 numbers. You'd think he would have remembered his numbers.
And thinking about Marianne as like she's an alien that's inhabiting a human form and trying to fit in, it makes a lot of sense what she says.
I would love to see that spin-off show about Marianne as an alien.
My secret so-called alien life
exactly.
with Marianne. Cousin John says, the lottery clerk is Greg Berger, actor Greg Berger. He says he has a ton of voice artist credits, but is probably most famous as the voice of Odie in every Garfield cartoon.
Interesting.
I remember Odie, and he's also Orson the Pig, which was another Garfield character that they added later. And then he also says the ending was blown the second it's pointed out that Balky doesn't have the ticket at the drawing. Still, it's a lot of fun, great physical comedy, and selfish Larry only pops up for a minute. They are clearly hitting their stride, and it makes this an ideal introductory episode as well as a rewatchable classic. Absolutely. It's just like a great all-around Perfect Strangers episode.
Good points. And Cousin Evelyn is echoing our love for Fiddler and says the newly groomed and very non-Jewish Balky Bartokomous singing Tevye's most famous song from Fiddler on the Roof is everything.
Yes.
Agreed.
That's great.
Agreed. We loved it. Serial makes an appearance. Oh, we said this too. These two really liked working cereal into their characters. They sneeze into their cereal, buy cereal stock, consistently empty boxes of cereal. Yeah, there's a lot of cereal flying around.
They must buy so much cereal.
General.
They can't keep it in the box. It's the minute they get it, it's all over the apartment. Now, we didn't have a Dimitri appearance, but we have a satellite collaboration complimentary Instagram account that's been running strong, run by Dimitri Sheep himself. What?
That's right. If you've been with us for a while, you know that we also are now following Dimitri Sheep, all one word, on Instagram.
You should follow him too.
Please go and follow Dimitri Sheep on Instagram. And there are episode themed posts for every episode that we review on this show as well. And they're very, very well done with lots of details from the episode. So let's take a look at the post for this episode. It is, there's an empty bookshelf behind Dimitri and a bunch of books strewn on the floor in
he's
front
on top of all
Dimitri.
the books. Yeah.
And he's on top of all the books. If we zoom in a little bit, we see a lottery ticket.
Yeah, from the Meepos lottery for a $28 million jackpot. What does it say in there? This ticket is definitely not legal tender. Legal? No. Yeah, legal tender.
Tender lamb.
Lamb.
For any.
Tender lamb for any Debts,
something
public or private. That's
yeah.
very clever. And the numbers are on there too, if you notice.
Yeah, those are the same numbers, and they're 4s, not 7s.
Yes.
And then there's another scrap of paper
This is
with
great.
like a dictionary definition of the word sucker and a photograph of Bronson Pinchot in the definition.
Next to a book titled Handbook of Commonly Used American Idioms.
Yes. And then I think there's some thought put into which books are strewn about because
Yeah.
above that one is Nabokov's book called Despair.
Oh, what's that about? I guess Despair.
Well, Despair.
Yeah, okay.
I would say that's
Like
about
Larry's
Larry.
Despair.
Exactly.
Yes. Very good.
What else
And
do we see?
The location of this photo is Chicago Wealth Management Group. Real funny.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good tie-in photo to this episode. There's a link in our show notes to Dimitri Sheep Instagram account. You can check it out and play along.
Yes, go give Dimitri Sheep some love. We certainly love this account. And now we're at the segment of our show that we like to call Perfect Strangers Today, or PS Today, in which we think about what would happen if this episode were made today. How would things change, or how would things be different? So do you have any thoughts, Imran?
Well, I think it's you have a question in here saying
First of all, do people still play the lottery?
Oh,
I've seen ads. My friend was in a lottery commercial.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, do they play?
During COVID, like all masked up, like checking a lottery ticket. Yeah.
Well, see, since you don't have a car, right? You're not in gas stations a lot. Let me tell you. Oh, do people play? Yeah, they play. They are scratch and win machines, and the machines that you scan your ticket to see if you win. The gas station I go to, they're constantly people playing the lottery. In fact, right now, the current Powerball jackpot, $113 million.
Oh boy,
which is a lot more.
Have you ever played the lottery?
You know what? I think there was a jackpot. It was up. It was like $500 million. It was like $500 million. Now, here's the thing. It's going to be harder to win that, but that's the only time I bought a ticket. I was like, maybe. But of course, everyone is buying tickets because the thing is rolled over, making your chances to win even harder. But
people do still play.
Oh, absolutely. It is huge. Illinois lottery, anyways, is huge, and it's state run.
I also thought that, like, today in our current times, there are other ways to be risky with money that some people are super into and some people think is foolish or don't understand. Things like crypto, NFTs.
Yes.
What was the whole like GameStop thing called?
GameStonk. Yeah, they were kind of shorting the stock.
Yeah.
But I can absolutely see if you did this today, I can hear Balky going, cousin, I want to buy Bitcoin. And Larry's like, you're not buying NFT, Balky. Yeah. You're not throwing your money away. Absolutely. The Bitcoin kind of speculation market but at least the lottery is like backed by something. And and this is backed by something. It's just blockchain.
And there's like a whole history of the lottery and marginalized communities.
Yeah, didn't we talk about how wasn't it? There was a comment about somebody running the numbers in a previous episode, and the numbers
it started in black communities,
right? And eventually became the legal lottery.
A very rich history
system.
Okay, another thought I had about PS Today is a lot of our PS Today comes back to social media and technology and smartphones.
Yeah.
But we have smartphones now, so like this whole thing would be moot because you could just take a picture. If you wanted to hide the ticket and keep it safe, you could just take a photograph or write down the
the Illinois Lottery has an app, and you buy the ticket on the app. You don't even have physical tickets. Like your numbers are stored in there, and it's going to just tell you.
So there would be no need to write it down by hand.
And with the app, you don't even have to watch because it'll tell you if you won or not. Really,
that's right. So those were my brief thoughts. Did you have anything else? Perfect Strangers Today. People do still play the lottery, but where would the conflict in this episode come from?
Maybe, you'd have to, the ticket would have to be destroyed or it flew. Well, but we said there's not going to be a ticket. I don't know. It would be a lot.
So maybe this one wouldn't hold up.
I don't know how much it would hold up. But the letdown of thinking you won millions of dollars, you have to get there somehow. You could still get there.
Yeah.
With these changes. And that's just, that's horrible feeling. That's why I don't play. Also, the thing that bugs me about the lottery sometimes is you can't just give anybody millions of dollars all of a sudden, especially since the majority of people
Well, a
playing.
lot of it get taxed.
Well, I'm just saying, a lot of people playing, like me, don't have a lot of money, wouldn't really know what to do with a large influx of money. If you look up stories of lottery winners' lives later, like it tends to destroy people's lives.
That's
when
what
they hit
happened
the
on
big thing.
Roseanne, though, right?
Yeah,
The whole family got rich toward the end, and
was
the
that
original
I think
series.
that was a dream, though. They didn't. That
Oh,
whole
did
season,
they make it a dream?
They retconned that whole season was a
Oh,
dream.
boy.
But yeah, but the Connors hit the lottery in the last season, and then I think they retconned that. But part of me is like, and also I wouldn't sign the thing where I'm like, will you appear on TV holding a check? No, I wouldn't want anyone to know.
Yeah, you don't want people to know. You're gonna get robbed.
Some of these states you have to agree to, put your face out there because you won because they want to promote it. But I'm just saying, you can't just give anybody hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
It will ruin their life because we don't know how to handle it.
I don't know. Some people might be smart about it. But.
Just like Tevye said, if money is a curse, may God strike me down with it.
Yeah. Money is the world's curse.
Money is the world's curse.
No, it's not Tevye. It's Perchik.
Perchik said it. No, but
Perchik
then Tevye says, if money is the world's curse, may the Lord. If I were a rich man. I mean, that's what that whole song is about.
Yes.
Is why can't I just have a little bit, God? Why can't you giving me all these things? Give me a little bit of money. But Tevye wouldn't know what to do with all that money either.
He would know some things to do.
He would buy.
He has a whole song about it. He knows exactly what he would do. He would build a big, strong house with rooms by the dozen.
Right in the middle of the town.
With one long staircase just going up and one even longer coming down.
And one more staircase going nowhere just for show. And then he would take care of his wife. Yes, Golda.
Yes.
Golda, do you still love me? All right.
Anyway, that's a different show. Before we transition into our next podcast, which is just us singing all the Fiddler songs.
Meanwhile, stay subscribed because next episode, Larry gets some assertiveness training, which was also popular in the 80s, these kind of seminars.
Was
to do things. There was all sorts of seminars. I remember this being a thing.
Huh.
Yeah. Larry gets assertive.
Well, we'll find out.
Also, listener, if you like what we do here, there is a way you can support the show. You can buy us a coffee if you visit our website, danceofjoypod.com/support. There's ways to buy us one coffee, a couple of coffees. It goes a long way to help the show keep going, and we'd love to see your support there.
Yes, and you can check us out at danceofjoypod.com. That is our website. We've got all our social media links up there, the Twitters, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, and all the links of where you can find and listen to our show. If you're enjoying this, leave us a rating or a review in Apple Podcasts if you feel so inclined, or leave us a message. There's a voice message at the bottom of the main page of the website. You can click the button and just talk to us, or you can send us an old-fashioned electronic mail at danceofjoypod@gmail.com. But what is the most important thing our listeners can do for us, Imran?
If you hide something, tie a little string around your finger so you remember where you put it. Otherwise, you're going to
take a picture of it.
Take a picture. That's right. Take a picture. It's not hidden. No, that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is to share the show with people who love the 80s, who want to relive the 80s, who want to remember the show, or get turned on to the show now that it's free to watch on IMDb TV for everyone.
Free to watch. Share the show. Tell your friends about Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast.
Thanks for listening, listener. And now we are so happy.
Now we are so happy we do the dance of joy.
Hey, 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 hey.